Hi, my name is Jason Factor, and I'm running for the Board of Assessors here in Hanover, Massachusetts. There are only two races in town this year that are contested elections: mine, as a member of the Board of Assessors, and the committee board. I think it may be tempting for many parents like myself in town to feel like all the hard work is done, the override has been passed, and it's easy to get complacent. But the reality is that the hard work is still in front of us. This election is going to be vital to determining the efforts that we put into the override are now executed moving forward. As a parent with kids in the middle school, center, and Cedar, I want to make sure that our kids' education is an important part of the decision making that goes into this election and Hanover's future. I want to make sure that I had the chance to get to know each candidate so that I knew who I want. We have three incredibly engaged, qualified volunteers who are willing to be part of the conversation as a member of their school committee so that they would like to earn your vote. I think that it's important to take the time to ask the key questions and get to know each of them. I wanted to do so, and I figured that this would be a great forum to share exactly what they said was important facing school committee moving forward, so that you as voters can be well informed and make well informed decisions on who you think would best represent us as an advocate for our town and our kids. I hope that you enjoy this conversation or series of conversations with each candidate, and remember, please make sure your voice is heard and vote on May 16th. Hey, Jackie, thank you so much for taking time to have this conversation. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Jason, and I appreciate you hosting and giving us this opportunity. So,
We'll
thank you.
see. I have a set of questions. They've been reviewed by all the candidates and they will be standard for each candidate, um,
Okay.
but with interjections for some conversation. We can leave a little room to be human. Uh,
Okay.
with that as the intro, perhaps you'd like a chance to introduce yourself and your current role on school committee.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name is Jackie Jorgensen, and I'm running for reelection to the Hanover School Committee. I've been on the school committee for the last 3 years, and for the last 3 years, I've been on a couple of the subcommittees. Biggest has been the academic working group. That one I've been a part of the entire time that I've been on the school committee, and I was also on the subcommittee that worked with the teachers union during their last contract negotiation.
Um, so obviously you have experience as a member of school committee running for reelection, but beyond that, school committee is a group of volunteers. Each of you bring your own perspective and professional and personal experiences. What skills and experiences do you think you bring to school committee that shape the way that you approach the conversations and your time on the board?
Yeah. So I, for 21 years from 2001 to 2022, I was a school teacher for Quincy Public Schools. And in that time, my first 2 years in Quincy, I taught eighth grade language arts, middle school. And then for the last 20 years or 19 years of my career, I taught high school English. So I have a lot of experience in public education. During that time, I taught every range of class that was offered. I've taught electives, CP level classes, inclusion classes, honors classes, AP classes. And then I also taught for 10 years at Quincy's Evening High School, which is another path to graduation for kids. And so during the course of that time, I've just become, I became so passionate about academics and curriculum. And I did a lot of curriculum development and was on a lot of committees in my school to develop curriculum. So when I left teaching in 22, I felt like at that time, I really wanted to do something for my community. And there was an election coming up for school committee. And I thought, well, now that I'm not in a school every single day, I have the bandwidth. I think I have something I can offer for the school committee. So I was also during that time that I was in Quincy Public Schools, I was also one of the union reps for the teachers for the city. And that was also really interesting. So I've kind of seen negotiation contracts from a lot of different sides too. So
You mentioned curriculum, obviously, your experience in the classroom. What do you see as the current strengths of the Hanover curriculum?
I think if we look at the last NEASC report that we got this school year, one of the things that they spoke a lot about with our strengths was that we have a strong vision for our graduate. So Hanover Public Schools really sat down and thought, okay, what are all the things that we want kids to be able to know and understand and be able to do when they graduate? And so they've written this really strong vision for the graduate. You can find it on the school webpage. I believe it's on the high school page. Could be on all of them, but I'm pretty sure it's on just the high school page. And so that's a real big strength. There's a real focus on keeping kids competitive with the towns around us, real big focus on giving kids opportunities to explore, create, and grow, and really kind of figure out what do I want to be when I leave Hanover Public Schools. And so I think that's a real big strength. There's a clear focus and intention with everything that they do. But I think probably the biggest thing, and especially I'm seeing it being part of the academic working group, the biggest strength I think they have as a leadership team across all of the schools in Hanover and at their leadership level is just open mindedness. They want to know, where is education going? What do we need to do to stay current? Um, they're just really willing to grow with the times. And I think that that is really, really important, especially with, public schools. Sometimes it's when things change, it's like turning a cruise ship. So it can take a while, but Hanover seems to be really passionate about staying current.
Where do you see room for improvement in the current Hanover curriculum?
In terms of academics, I think one of the biggest things that we lost when we had that first failed override, and then when we had the second override that ultimately passed but wasn't necessarily a growth budget, we weren't able to add back in department heads. I think that is a huge miss for us, especially when we think about our visions for the future and where we want our kids to grow. And I think having those subject matter experts for each building where you have, you think about teachers get evaluated. Well, I'm an English teacher. It would make sense if I had a department head who is a subject matter expert in English to evaluating me, can give me the most meaningful feedback as an English teacher. I think that is an area where I would absolutely love to see if there's opportunity to add them back. I would be very supportive of that. I think also we have to look at the budget and see if it's realistic. But if there is room for it, I would be very passionate about that. I think we also need to have a little bit more vertical alignment. Just going from school to school, I think that the schools have done really well with that. But where you don't have department heads and then they don't have common planning time, each subject, in the buildings, they don't have a ton of common planning time. I think it would be really great if there were opportunities built into professional development for teachers from each building to work together for that vertical alignment when kids are transitioning from one building to the next.
So standardizing that transition a little bit.
Yeah, and giving teachers just that opportunity, fourth grade teachers the opportunity to meet with fifth grade teachers. If I'm going to be, if my kiddos are going into fifth grade science or fifth grade ELA, are there opportunities in the fourth grade curriculum to get our kiddos ready for fifth and then eighth into ninth and so on and so forth? I know that they do
Mhm.
some of that, but I don't think that we have enough time and opportunity built in for the amount that they probably would like to, I would imagine. I loved doing it. When I was a ninth grade teacher, I loved meeting with eighth grade teachers. I just thought it was so helpful, important. it was just great for everybody. So, I would love to see that happen too. And I think the lack of department heads, having taken that away and not having those subject matter expert leaders, I think makes that vertical alignment difficult too. So I would love to see if there are ways we can support the schools in getting some of that back for them.
In terms of technology, having
Mm.
been in the classroom, what do you think the role of technology is in the classroom?
Okay, until about the last 10 years of my career, I literally wrote with chalk. So, like,
It's okay. I was joking.
chalk.
I
So,
I was joking. I
schools
love the smell of chalk.
I know. I'd have, like, the kids out the windows clapping the erasers. But I think we've now gotten to a point, though, where schools have to. We absolutely have to accept the fact that teachers can't teach the way they were taught. The world is moving and changing all of the time. And so, if we really want to keep our vision of the graduate focused on skills for the future and also helping kids navigate technology, safety, appropriate usage, um, teachers have to implement it in the classroom. I think and we have professional development the last year that was really focused on AI for teachers to help teachers who are in all ends of the spectrum. Some people are just starting to understand it and figure out how they can use it. And then you have other people who are so ready to embrace it and work with it. So I think having that professional development has been huge for teachers to really give everyone the opportunity to learn about it. Um, but
You
we had,
mentioned you
sorry, go
mentioned
ahead.
AI. Oh, sorry. You mentioned AI. That was actually going to be my next question,
Hmm.
unless there's something specific you want to touch on about the rest of the technology in the classroom.
Well, I think one thing that we got some feedback on our NEASC report specifically
Hmm.
about tech, and I think there's they want to see a more um, concrete, specific plan around technology. And I think we've talked about it in school committee meetings. It's no secret. Our tech needs to be in a cycle with replacements. We need to have a better, more clearly defined replacement cycle. Um, we're working on infrastructure, adding in more Wi-Fi capabilities, but even things like getting the light bulbs for the projectors in the classroom. That equipment's so outdated that those bulbs are almost impossible to get anymore. So it's how do we have that replacement cycle. I know that they have worked very closely, the school leadership has worked really closely with, the town technology team, and they have a replacement cycle, they have ideas, they're ready to move forward. It's just a matter of making sure that it is cemented and fully funded year after year so that we can I think that is an area of opportunity for us as a district. So,
And circling back to your to to AI, which you mentioned briefly, what
mhm,
role do you believe AI should have in the classroom or even as a part of our curriculum moving forward?
mm. So, I would be one of those people who's, in the beginning of my AI journey. I'm trying to understand it, but I said this at school committee one night, I think I've seen Terminator 2 too many times, it actually kinda terrifies me too. So, I think
I tell my
providing
kids all the
opportunity.
time, you don't talk to Alexa. She is not your friend. You can ask her questions, but she is not your friend. You do not have
Yeah,
conversations.
and sometimes she talks at me, and I'm like, "I didn't even talk to you, why are you talking to me?" So, um, I think it's I think it's one of those things where I know Mr. Plummer has talked about, wanting to have electives in the high
Mhm.
school for this. I think that's a great idea. I think kids need to, when they go to college or they graduate and go into the job force, AI is gonna be all around them, and if they have exposure to it and they have understanding and they have some sort of curriculum and elective classes around it, they're just gonna be better off. But I think, as an English teacher, for example, one thing I often did in the classroom was require that kids write essays in class and they had to handwrite essays because I do think there is a lot of fear around AI, and I personally have this fear a little bit too, that if we use it too much, what happens to our critical thinking, our rhetorical analysis, our writing skills. So for me,
Your
I
skills
really think
atrophy. I see it at work all the time. We have specialists that do different departments. And, like my condo underwriting skill that I used to have to do myself, that is now a designated person. She's wonderful, but my ability to do it the same way
Mhm.
is not the same as it used to because I have experts that do it for me,
Yeah,
which is great because they're better at than I ever was. But you've got to learn how to use it and still know the basics to launch those programs and direct them in the right paths. Um, so I think you're spot on. Um, in the coming years, though, you mentioned a variety of plans that Hanover has put together.
mhm.
Uh, one key thing within our budget is going to be a conversation that is currently not necessarily in our budget, which is capital projects specifically around either to rebuild or repair the middle school. What do you think voters should consider when thinking about this potential investment, and where do you stand?
So I know that the last couple of years we have been working within the budget to make repairs, and that's important. But at what point does it become the repairs are so costly that does it make sense to keep investing in them? And I think Hanover, the conversation has already started, whether officially or unofficially. It's out there and it has started. And I think the thing that is a real strength of Mike Oates and his team, transparency. If parents, families want to know something, he has all of the numbers thought out. He knows where things could go, where they might land. So I know when this process starts, I have great faith that there's going to be a lot of transparency. Um, when you go into the building, when we talk about tech and things like that, we need buildings that can support the technology, right? So, and we're growing. We're a town that's growing. I mean, there's so much construction around town and it's wonderful, but we need the buildings to support that. So, if it made sense to start talking about rebuilding the school, um, I I don't know, it would be I'd have to see everything and really see what the impact would be financially on the town, but I think I would probably support it just because, I have a daughter who's in 10th grade, but when she started in 5th grade, when I wasn't on school committee and I walked in for the first time, I was looking around, I'm like, "Ooh, I wonder how long until we have to vote in a new school," because it's,
It
you know,
looks like
they
an empty I always joke it looks like an empty soundstage from, like, an '80s or '90s movie where,
Yeah.
like, none of the lockers close, you bang them shut, and they pop right back open. It's a for those who haven't walked through the middle school, it is definitely showing its age. Um,
It is, and they have a cafetorium. I mean, it would be cool if they had, like, some separate spaces for that, and I think also, they just and I have to give the teachers credit because sometimes you walk in the classroom and I think, "Wow, they've done such a beautiful job," you know? Um, but I don't think they have a ton to work with. I think the structure is old. I know that, and more importantly than aesthetics, of course, is, you know, the leaking. They have had some issues with, the roof and projects that are so expensive. So,
within the existing budget, so that would be something that voters are gonna have to determine, is this outside of our budget? But within the existing budget, what are the top school priorities that you believe voters and the board should be focusing on funding over the next 3 years?
I really do feel that technology is number 1. I think, when I think about handing out school books and, having kids bring home the books to cover with the paper bags, I mean, it actually does make so much more sense to have the technology. because you can stay current when things change. If we have subscription services to different things, the kids are constantly getting the most current information available. But I think we have to be a one-to-one district. I think there has to be equal access for all kids. As the Wi-Fi is much better. I think there's probably some more work to do there. Um, so I think that technology is going to be huge. It's, not only is it practical, but it's also, saves us on books and really does make sure that every single kid has the most current information. So I think technology is probably the one I feel like in terms of access and in terms of kids having equal access to the same information, we have to get technology right. And I do think that when we think about academics, I know we have an incredible AP program at the high school. I would love to see a little bit more attention given to the CP classes. And I know Mr. Plummer is also really interested in the electives and building the electives at the high school level. So I would love to see those two areas really get some focus. I'd love to see the CP curriculum um, maybe get a little plussed up and then a little more alignment within each department. And then I think I would love to see for the electives, I would love to see us grow and figure out where can we make the most, I guess, the investment that makes the most sense. So, and that means where the kid's going to be when they graduate. And some kids are going to go to college, and I think it's 88 to 90% of our kids do. But we need to have things for kids who are going straight into the workforce or going into the service too.
Well, thank you, Jackie, for making the time to do this. I really appreciate it. I hope people have had a chance to get to know Jackie a little bit better through this conversation. That is my goal. I think well informed voters make better decisions.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage you to please stand up, get involved, reach out to a candidate if you heard something that you don't understand or want more information on. I know all three candidates are eager and excited to engage with people around town about these conversations. But most importantly, please go out and vote on May 16th or stop by town hall and learn ways that you can get your ballot ahead of time if you are not available on the 16th. It is really, really important that all parents in town stand up, be heard, and be an active part of the solutions moving forward. Passing an override on its own merit or as a standalone thing does not solve our problems. We have lots of really big decisions to make as voters in town, and I really would like every single parent to get out and be part of that conversation. So thank you. And
Thank
thank
you
you for
so much.
volunteering to do this, Jackie. It's a really important role.
Thank you. Thank you. To me, public education is the thing I am probably the most passionate about. I just think it's so important. And if there's any way that I can help our town, that's that's what I'm here to do. So, and thank you so much for having us. This was so fun. I love that this is my first podcast. I don't know if it shows, it probably does. But yeah, thank you so much.
My pleasure. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Chase.
Hi, Pete. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for doing this. This is just so fun.
Well, we'll see if it's fun. I have some real questions for you guys, but before I do that, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself as a candidate for school committee. Thank you for volunteering, but share a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I've been on the school committee for the last two terms, so 6 years. I started the almost on the eve of COVID, and they haven't scared me away since then. So it's been some crazy 6 years, but I feel like the reasons I got on in the first place, I wanted to get on in the first place, are the reasons I'm here now, is because I really want to focus really back on education. So yeah, my background is I'm by training I'm an engineer, and I have a career that I've enjoyed in engineering and with a number of leadership roles, and had a lot of fun just doing innovation, taking on new projects. Some that go nowhere, some that go somewhere, and really trying to get teams of people to work together towards a common goal.
Well, what skills everyone who's on school committee is a volunteer. Most of them have had jobs or at least personal experiences in other realms. What skills and experiences do you think you bring that would shape your approach and perspective as a member of school committee if reelected?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think everybody brings something to the table. If you look at the current composition of the school committee, it's a really good mix. We have some people who are former educators, and other people like myself who have experience in education, but not necessarily in secondary, primary and secondary schools. So I think what I bring is really just leadership, my experience in leadership and executive function. I'm really big on super riveting things like fiscal matters, long range planning, and then trying to make sure that we're working as a team, trying to accomplish our goals, setting ambitious goals, and working towards them. And I'm also, in the last few years, I've been really working hard at interfacing with other town leadership. It's something that I think is really important for us to be successful. I've had the pleasure of serving as chair the last 2 years, and I hope that I've lived up to these qualities. I think as I mentioned before, my career in leaders in leading teams, and doing innovation, really prepares me for this. I like to set big goals. I like to work towards them. Um, and then I think just having experience as a committee member is really important because it takes literally years to learn how this system works. It's got a lot of rules. There's got a lot of people involved. There's a lot of relationships to build, a lot of trust to build in order to be effective as a school committee member. And I feel like now I'm finally at the point where I can be incredibly efficient and effective as a member. I'm not sticking around forever, but I feel like I'm at the right place at the right time to offer the most and be most effective.
You mentioned metrics and goals a few times. What metrics do you value when measuring student achievement? And what is the most impactful way that you believe school committee or yourself can share that progress with voters and school administrators?
Yeah, I think I mentioned this on Canada tonight, but student achievement is really one of our bottom lines. Um, and you've heard the expression um, for the things that really count. Most important things are things that can't be counted. Now, it's true that the statement is true. I think there's a spirit to this, but I think also it starts with things that you can count. So, we need to be very data driven. We need to look closely at standardized test scores, not just to cheerlead and say, "Hey, great job," but to be analytical about them, be diagnostic about them, to ask the administration to be more diagnostic. What are we learning from these latest scores? And what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What do we got to work on? We look at MCAS scores, AP, iReady, Dibbles. They all have their own angle at things. And I also look at outcomes. I mean, where are students going after they graduate? What careers are they taking on? The majority of our students go to college. Where are they being accepted? Where are they going? Um, I think in general this is a great question because as a committee, we need to focus on how to frame this up more carefully, be more systematic about it. I mentioned all the test scores that we track, but in aggregate, how do we look at these things holistically? And how do we look at them from year to year? What is the trend? What does it mean? So, all that being said, I think the spirit of this is that we need to spend time on it. That's the most precious thing that we have. We need to put it on our agendas. We need to spend more time talking about it, about student achievement, and how to improve that year over year.
You mentioned some metrics that you value and that you look at. What do you see as the strengths of Hanover's current curriculum?
Yeah, I think so. There's a few things I think that don't often get enough press time. One is that we are really ahead of the curve on the science of reading, and that affects all students, especially our youngest learners. And that was rolled out years ago during at the end of the pandemic, and before it made headlines in the media. Now you hear about schools, oh, they're doing the science of reading. Well, we've been doing that for a while now, and I think its impacts are going to be felt over this entire decade at all levels for all students. I think for our highest achievers, we continue to break records on our advanced placement, and I mentioned this in my posts and at candidates night. So that's really exciting. I think that's for our highest achievers because it really levels the raises the whole profile for our entire school system. So when you go to apply for college, they're going to take that into account. Since the
Saves
override
parents a lot of
passed,
money too.
right?
It can save parents a lot of money
It
too.
can, state schools do accept AP scores, so that's a big thing. Back when I was in school, my school offered one AP course. We offer dozens. In fact, we offer next year. We're going to offer three to sophomores. So it's just an incredible opportunity, and anybody can take the test. Um, Obviously, if you have to get recommended to take these courses, but you're free to take them, and you have to take the test. And it's a big, for somebody who's passionate about something, they really want to take it, they can do it. So it's really about the opportunity of it.
Yeah,
Um,
it saved me an entire semester at Boston University. That's not a small chunk of change.
that's real dollars, and some students just finish early if they can get away with it. It means tuition.
Yep. As
Uh,
much as I would have rather stayed and played baseball, I unfortunately had to graduate a little early. It was the right financial decision for me and my family.
that's good.
Uh,
Yeah.
where do you see room for improvement in Hanover's curriculum?
I think we're on the right track right now in offering more electives to not just our highest achievers, but to all students. I'm going to pick on some of the things at the high school, but some of these offerings are budget neutral, of course. But we need to look more at them. We're all going to offer some courses in personal finance, in criminal justice, in healthcare careers. And we're trying to roll this out and be very creative about it. We need to do more of that and look at because students are really just itching for some new things, and we always need to stay up to date with the needs of our students. Um, and
I
I think
personally would volunteer to be part of any of those. If we're tapping volunteers within the community, I know members of the chamber have stepped up in the past for Credit for Life Day and things like that. I would love to get involved in that kind of stuff.
that's great. I think in some of these courses they're going to bring in guest speakers and really try to educate kids on what's out there. It's a great opportunity at an early age to really just get a taste of something that you wouldn't ordinarily get it unless you went to college and really jumped into it.
What about introducing new things into the classroom? Technology is obviously an ongoing conversation. What role should technology play in the classroom?
I think it's the right question to be asking ourselves, and it is in our strategic plan. So we're going to hear a lot more about this in the coming years, and it's something I think about a lot. I struggle with the idea of using screens in the classroom. I'm a bit old fashioned. I did teach at the college level. I did a short stint in high school a long time ago, and I used the blackboard. Um, and I taught online classes, and I didn't use PowerPoint. I wrote on the screen. So I guess that's sort of old fashioned, even with a screen. But um, what I learned is that through all these things, which are all intriguing, online learning, everything else, the human connection is where the value really is. So if you look at that, and it's going to remain that way forever, right? So we learn most effectively from other humans. I mean, that's just the bottom line. So my response is, tech is like creeping in every way, um, from the home all the way in, and we need to take a step back and say what is best for our students. I'm not suggesting that we go back to the '80s and do wholesale blue books and blackboards. It's a little nostalgic, but I kind of I would like it, but I'm not saying that's the answer. But what I'm saying is that we need to shine some more light on that and figure out just in general just technology as a whole, not just AI, technology as a whole. What level does it need to be in our classrooms? It's a great question.
I will take the smell of the chalkboard over the whiteboard any day. But
And
uh,
cleaning the chalkboard, yeah.
um, what about that's technology in general, but specifically, what role should AI have in the classroom as part of our curriculum or just overall?
Yeah, I think we're all using AI more and more as part of our jobs, right? Um, so the question is, what is it? How does that translate to the classroom? I mean, AI has the power to make us more productive, to analyze, give us greater insight into leveraging collective knowledge. I mean, it's also wrong a lot. Um, it's getting better every day, but it's wrong a lot. We used to laugh about never quote from Wikipedia. Well, now what are we doing now, right? So I think there's a lot of downside to it. Does it make us smarter? Does it make us learn better? Does it improve the learning process directly? I mean, I don't think so. If you look at all the learning styles, it's hard to find one that involves screen, right? So, what place does it have? I think there are some use cases in education. You know, we've been using calculators for a long time, right? So there are use cases for in the classroom. I think we need to figure out what those are, and we also need to figure out what the use cases are that don't fit, because we do need to set policy around these things. I think it's still a little early, but we need to do a lot, get a lot of training and educate ourselves. What is the best use case, and how do we apply that to our students? Just to, I mean, bottom line is student outcomes. How does it improve that?
Yeah. I remember Miss Van Dyke, fourth grade math, yelled at me because I didn't have my memorization. I didn't memorize all my multiplication and division. And I remember her saying, "You will never walk around with a calculator in your pocket every day." And I I wish I could go back. Although she would probably get me and be like, "You do math for a living, and you hated this subject." So she would have the trump card at the end. Um, in terms of math, there is actually some really important math being done. It's easy for parents to potentially feel a little complacent about schools, given that we just passed an override in Hanover. But in the coming years, Hanover will need to decide whether or not there are some really big decisions to be made. One of which that has been a hot topic of conversation is repairs or to potentially rebuild the middle school. What do you think voters should consider when thinking about this potential investment?
Yeah, it's no secret that we have infrastructure in need of repair and replacement. We have large warrant articles that everybody's going to vote on this week at the annual town meeting to repair our roofs, do HVAC, gym floors across a number of buildings. Should you vote in favor of these articles, these repairs will get us through the next 3 to 5 years. Now, at this time next year, we'll probably want to decide if we want to move ahead with replacing HNS. It's a big decision. Um, but if you look at the building, it's ready. So do we want to continue to do really more and more expensive repairs, particularly the roof, and deal with escalating costs that are going to directly hit our bottom line as a town, or do we try to go to another route, which is to look at purchasing a new school and constructing a new school, which will involve MSBA, getting aid from the state, and looking at how to finance it as well. I mean, we're doing the South Shore Vortec now, and we have to see when these things are going to hit our municipal budget. But let's say we made a decision today. It's probably not going to be probably we're talking 5 years from now when you would actually get to a town vote and actually go through that whole process. So it's a long range question that we really need to look at now.
Within the existing budgets, so middle school or capital projects, obviously, like you said, long range planning. Within the existing budgets, what do you see as the school's top budget priorities that you believe voters and the board should be focusing on over the next 3 years?
Yeah, the top priority is to maintain our level of service, which means keep all of our staff in place, and at the very best, to be budget neutral about everything we do. Because getting through the next 3 years, if you just take a look around every municipality around us, this is going to be like trying to fit through a very, very tight sweater and getting through the other side. If we can get through the other side, we're going to be fine. But I think we're going to have to work really hard to do that. We're going to have to look for ever increasing efficiencies in what we do, controlling our expense lines, and looking for every corner of aid that we can. I mean, if the state is going to step up and increasing Chapter 70, that's a great opportunity for the town. But we're going to also have to work really close with our town officials to see if paths exist to maintain those levels of services.
Unfortunately, many of us, myself included, have experience fitting into tight sweaters. So I think we can manage it if parents are willing to step up, get involved, speak up, and be part of the conversation. I encourage everyone to listen to the next sets of interviews, go back, review all the candidates' answers, but more importantly, get out and vote on May 16th or go visit Town Hall, learn how you can pick up an early ballot if you can't be there. Please step up, be involved, attend school committees, meetings, and be part of the solution. Thank you, Pete, for your volunteerism to be part of that conversation. And I look forward to seeing you around town.
Jason, thanks so much. I'm really so glad you're doing this. I'm really pleased that we can have a good level playing field for all the candidates, and we get to talk about really important issues. So thanks.
My pleasure. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Hanley, it is very nice to finally officially meet you.
It's nice to
We
meet you too, Jason.
we've run in some similar circles. I see my signs up on a lot of the same yards or in the same neighborhoods that your signs are up, but we haven't had a chance to actually meet. Today, I would like to give you a chance to introduce yourself, and then we can go off with a few questions from there.
Awesome. Well, it's nice to meet you as well. And hello to anybody who's watching or listening. My name is Hanley Scott, as you know. I have lived in Hanover since 2019, and I'm a candidate this year for school committee. And I'm very excited to be running, very excited to be involved with the town, and very excited to be here with you today.
Well, thank you for making the time to do it. I know it is busy. I will start with a couple of set of questions that we will be asked to every candidate. So I'll start off with every school member brings a different perspective and a different set of experiences to the role. Many professional, ranging all the way from personal and professional experiences. What skills and experiences do you think you bring to the position that would shape your approach on how you would handle school committee issues?
Sure. I think it's actually really good that we come from different backgrounds. My background professionally is that I work for my family business, which is called Encore Specialty Foods. And I manage daily operations with my brother Jeremy, who's now the owner. Our dad started the business back in the 70s, and we are gourmet food importers, which, if you have been listening to the news this year, imports has been a very interesting business to be in for the last year and a half or so. Um, Part of my job, I should say, all of my job in daily operations is that I have a hand in every aspect of the business, from sales, customer service, order processing, logistics, procurement, warehouse relationships, customer relationships, vendor relationships. I have a hand in all of it. And one of the set of skills that I think I really bring to school committee is my ability to look at issues or solutions to issues from a lot of different angles. Because all day, every day, what I'm doing is looking at how one problem or one proposed solution to a problem will affect a lot of different areas of our business. And I think that's something in town government that is a really useful skill, because town government is made up of a lot of different departments. And when you're talking about schools, you have to look at how issues and solutions will affect everybody within the schools, whether you're looking at it from the high school, middle school, elementary school level, or administrative teachers and support staff level, or you're looking at it more as full town government. How is this decision going to affect schools? And then how will that decision affect other town departments? So I think being able to see things from a wide variety of angles is one of the professional skills that I would bring to a school committee. My background with wanting to be on school committee is that I was a volunteer with Invest in Hanover for 2 years during the 2 override years. And during those 2 years, I started off knowing absolutely nothing. I was one of those people who, would come out to vote at town elections usually, but I never really was involved. I had no idea how town governments work. I grew up on the South Shore with my parents going to town meetings and had absolutely no idea how town governments worked. It was never explained to me. And then when my son was in kindergarten, the spring of his kindergarten year was when the rumblings of, the budget issues kind of started to come up. And my ears kind of perked and I started paying attention, because the whole reason we moved to Hanover was that I wanted to raise him in a small town with a close-knit community, and I wanted to end up in the best school district that I possibly could. When we moved to Hanover, I was recently post-divorce, kind of rebuilding my life. This was where I moved after selling my home that I bought with my ex, and I really wanted to find a place where we could settle forever. And to me, the core of where we were going to settle forever was, who has the best schools and what is the best school system I can get into for the money that I can spend. Because once we go there, I never want to move again. I want to set down roots. I want to raise him. I want this to be the forever home. And that ended up being Hanover. And I'm so grateful that it was.
So you spoke a little bit about looking for the best school district. Um, I don't know what metrics you necessarily use to evaluate best in air quotes. But as a member of school committee, what metrics do you believe we should be using when measuring student achievement and looking at the most impactful ways that you would be able to share those metrics and that progress with others?
Anybody who's a parent right now knows kind of the standard metrics that we're using. We all get the iReady reports and the Dibbles reports and the school report cards from the state, and we get those things sent automatically by the school. And I think that they are a useful tool. I think anything like that where there is testing or, things with metrics that are involved are useful tools, but I don't think that they are every tool. And one thing that I would really encourage parents or grown-ups who are not parents but maybe have kids in the school system to really invest in is the metrics of the the relationships that we have within the schools. And so getting more adults in to talk to the teachers, to talk to the administrators, to talk to the support staff, to say, how is my kid doing? How are all the kids doing? How are you doing? How are these systems working? How is the curriculum going? What could be improved upon? These are questions that school committee should be asking of the teachers and administrators, but it's something that parents should also be asking. I think a lot of times as parents, we receive information and don't necessarily give a lot of feedback, or we just accept things as they are. And I think that one of the metrics that we should be relying on more heavily are the reporting metrics from our administrators and from our teachers and from our parents about how their kids are doing, what is working for them, what is not working for them. I don't want to underestimate the power of human feedback in this, because we can look at test scores all day long, but they don't paint the whole picture.
Based on your feedback as a parent with kids in school, what do you see as the strengths of Hanover's curriculum?
As I said before, kind of in the thick of things, in the weeds, and in the elementary school, and I haven't had a deep look as a parent, and I don't have the experience in the middle school and high school curriculum. I have spent a lot of time listening to school committee meetings and listening to other people who are kind of in the thick of it at the other middle and high school levels, reporting back on it. But it sounds to me like our current administration has a really good grasp on curriculum and making curriculum adjustments that work for the community. I really want to applaud the current administration and the current school committee for being very open and transparent about curriculum changes, both during the override and post-override, about, kind of what was lost, what would be pain points, and then what was first to bring back and what is still lacking. I think the fact that the administration is so open to making curriculum changes as needed is a huge advantage, and something where we're really succeeding, because they're really taking a look at classes that kids are taking advantage of and classes that kids are not taking advantage of, and then making changes based on that. And I think that that's incredible.
Where do you see room for improvement within the curriculum?
So one of my talking points that I've talked to a lot of people about is that I am very pro VOTEC education. I am very invested in vocational and tech and STEM education for kids. I think that South Shore VOTEC offers an incredible program, and I am in no way looking to, leave that program. I think that they're awesome. They're right behind my house, and they really specialize in something that we need more of on the South Shore in general, and especially in Hanover. I would love to see Hanover develop vocational and technical and more STEM educational opportunities for our kids. I think that there's a huge opportunity to build a VOTEC program or something, like a VOTEC program in district. And I think that that'll do two things. I think it will offer a place for kids who don't get a spot at South Shore VOTEC or don't go to Aggie. And I think it will also offer the opportunity for kids to have a taste of VOTEC education who wouldn't otherwise, because they're not interested in leaving Hanover. The demand for skilled labor is increasing, and there's a huge deficit of workers who are able to fill those positions. At the same time, college is becoming more and more unaffordable. I have a child in third grade. College is not that far away. I mean, 10 years, it's not far at all. And the idea of paying a tuition at today's rates in 10 years, it feels completely unachievable. I'm also a millennial, and I saw firsthand the catastrophic effect that student loan borrowing had on our generation and has had on Gen Z as well. Um, Borrowing in the student loan field, it's not good, and it riddles kids with debt at very high interest rates that has compounded for years the second they're done with their degree and are trying to figure out what to do with their lives. I think one of the ways that we combat that is by looking at alternatives to traditional four-year education with that hefty price tag and investing in things like community college and, two-year programs or alternative programs within four-year universities. One of the ways that we can prepare kids for that is by offering them classes in high school and programs in high school that may look different to the traditional classes and programs we would be offering them if we were only focusing on traditional four-year education for them after high school.
In terms of technology, as you talk about different ways that classrooms are shaped, what role do you think technology should be playing within the classroom?
Less. As someone who just advocated for more STEM education. Again, I'm looking at this, primarily from my viewpoint as a parent of an elementary school kid. And I think we are all spending too much time on our technology. I am, my son is, most people are. I would love to see a shift back, not away from, just a step back from the amount of technology that's being used in classrooms. I think that tech education is incredibly important. And I think, teaching kids how to use technology is incredibly important. But I think teaching them how to use it and having it as the go-to mechanism for delivering curriculum are two different things. I would like to see less of it as a delivery method for curriculum, and I would like to see more of it as being instructed on how to use it.
What what role do you then think things like AI should have in the classroom or as part of the curriculum in general?
AI is here. Whether we like it or not, it's here. And I think the best thing that we can do is arm our kids with knowledge. And same with our teachers. I think that teachers should have access to ample training from experts in the AI educational field, specifically educational field, um, to train them on not only how to use it, but how to avoid it, and also how to get our kids um, learning about it, not necessarily using it, but learning about it. And I think that there is an opportunity here to round out the education with our kids in terms of IT classes and AI and things like that, teaching them about how to learn what's real, learn what's not real. When we teach them about how to navigate the internet and use critical thinking, I think critical thinking and teaching them how to differentiate what's real and what's not is a huge part of this. And it's a huge part of the conversation around AI. As things become more and more realistic in the AI space, more realistic looking, it's going to be harder to differentiate and to use those critical thinking skills to figure out what is real and what's not. And I think a huge part of the AI conversation is about creating curriculum and, educational pathways and programs around critical thinking and how are we arming our kids with the tools to understand what is real and what's not in the world.
In the coming years, as we talk about planning moving forward, Hanover is going to have to decide on some very critical capital projects, including repairs to or even rebuilding a middle school, place that your kids will eventually be going. What do you think voters should be considering when thinking about the potential investments that would require?
The cost of delay. I think that is the one of the biggest lessons that we can look at with this. The conditions of the middle school, and I haven't been inside of it, but I've heard a lot of reporting back about it, conditions are not good. And I think that Cedar also has a big problem right now that I know the town is addressing with the roof replacement. But the cost of delay on these projects is significant, both in terms of what the cost will be eventually when we do rebuild, and also the costs that we're going to be investing in repairs along the way. Just at town meeting 2 days ago, residents were talking about PFAS and the cost of kicking the can down the road. And that came up over and over and over again, that, the town of Hanover is known for kicking the can down the road when these big projects present itself. And somebody brought up the cost of the high school when the high school was rebuilt. It, started off as I think a $22 million project and was $47 million by the time it was actually built, because it didn't pass the first time and took, I think, nearly a decade. I think the middle school project should have been addressed a decade ago, and it wasn't. And I'm sure that there were reasons for that. In any given year, there are a number of capital projects that have to be addressed of various sizes. And I think a lot of times, there isn't an appetite for a large project. But the cost of that is that construction costs have now doubled post-COVID. And had this been addressed a decade ago, and had we gotten into the MSBA process a decade ago and gotten things going a decade ago, I know there was also the center school rebuild around that time as well. I think that there was, potentially a missed opportunity during that construction phase as well to look at combining schools and, realizing that, yes, center needed to be rebuilt, but these other two buildings are not too far behind. And is there a larger project that could have taken the place of just rebuilding center at that time? Obviously, we can't control global pandemics and what happens to costs after them. But the reality is we never know what's going to happen tomorrow. We never know when the next COVID is going to happen. We never know when the next tariff situation is going to happen. And so by continuing to delay, we're only costing ourselves more money in terms of what we're spending in the buildings now to repair them, how many years we're going to be spending that much money, and then what the eventual construction costs will be down the line. So I would really encourage voters, it's not something that we're going to be voting on next year. It's not something that we're going to be voting on in 2 years. The MSBA process is lengthy, and it's probably going to be 5 years before we're voting on funding for this, if that's the decision, is to move forward with a full rebuild. But I really want to remind people about the costs of delay and to take care of this as soon as possible.
That's obviously something, like you just said, that's maybe many, many years down the road. Within the existing budgets, what do you see as the top budget-related priorities that you think voters and the school committee board should be focused on over the next 3 years?
I think continuing to rebuild post-override. And for me personally, what that means is getting more staff and more teachers back into the buildings. The loss of the 37, 38 positions, I think it was, from the override was catastrophic. And we saw what that was like last year. Since the passing of the override and getting many of those positions back, we've seen what a difference that can make this year. I think morale is up at the schools. My son is doing better. His classroom is smaller, seems more manageable when I'm in there. But I think we're still not whole from where we were. And I think getting more staff, more teachers, more support staff, more counseling staff in there to support the kids and to support the teachers as well. Obviously our kids need more adults in there, but our teachers also need more support, and we can't leave them out of this conversation.
Thank you for making time for this conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking time. I know it's a busy day, full day of work, and then a full day with kids. So thank you for making time to chat, and good luck in this upcoming election. I look forward to seeing you around town.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. It was great to talk to you. And don't forget to vote on May 16th, everyone.
Please, no matter which candidate you are going to go out and support, the key thing is that you go out and support them. So, as a PSA on behalf of everybody, please, 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 make sure that your voice is heard. Stand up and be counted as one of the people voting on May 16th at Hanover High School. If you need a ride, there are ride services available. Reach out to town. If you have any questions on how to get a ballot early, there are plenty of opportunities to get out and vote. So please stand up, be heard, be counted, and be part of the vote on May 16th. Produced by Jason Factor. Jason Factor is a candidate for the Board of Assessors. This video is intended for informational purposes only and does not constitute an endorsement of any candidates.